I call upon the Leader of the Opposition to lead us in prayer, please. The Speaker, sorry, my apologies. With apologies. Listen, it's early in the day. We're all sleep deprived. Mr. Speaker.
Let us pray. Father God, we thank Thee for all your blessings. We thank you for your word, that it teaches us. We thank you, Lord, for every good thing for our country, for those that help us, those that work with us as a legislature. We pray, O Lord, that you would teach us to be more discerning, to understand and appreciate what we do have as a country, to know where we come from, where we are, and where we want to go. And help us to understand, were it not for your mercies, where would we have been? Bless our deliberations here, and let us be kind to one another. Save us from ourselves. Bless our people, our families, wherever they are. Be with them. For we ask these mercies in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. You may be seated. This committee is now in session, and this morning we are going to commence our deliberations in examining the appropriations to the Minister of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. And just by way of indication, following this ministry, we will deal with the Minister, the appropriations to the Minister of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure. So we'll begin this morning with the Minister of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. The first item is DAT1, Advice and Support to the Minister of District Administration, Tourism and Planning, $2,494,180 in 2018 and $2,386,408 in 2019. Are there any questions? If there are no questions, all those in favor of DAT1, Advice and Support to the Minister of District Administration, Youth and Transport, in the amount of $2,494,180 in 2018 and $2,386,408 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. DAT2, Government Services in Cayman and Little Cayman for $4,510,608 in 2018 and $4,691,939 in 2019. Are there any questions? Member for Northside.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just one clarification, the Minister. Number of passengers processed, you say 50 to 60,000, but under strategic domestic air services, you're proposing to take between 80 and 90,000. Why the difference? Is it because this is the 80 and 90, you're counting on coming and going, but you got clear on coming and going too, no? So why is it? Because that's a substantial amount.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I thank the Leader of the Opposition for that question. We can wait until the CEO of Cayman Airways comes to answer that question, or I can ask Chief Officer Bodden to see if he can shed any light on it for us. Chief Officer Bodden's here. So
Yeah,
if I
I'm just trying to find out which number is likely to be correct, that's all.
state your name.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, sir.
Strand Barden, Chief Officer in the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Thank the member for the question. Good morning, all. As Minister said, I would seek further clarification from the CEO of Cayman Airways, but from my interpretation of that is the difference between the local travel and the international travel.
So you're suggesting that you have more international travel between here and Cayman Brac than you have local by 30,000? I just want to know that you're not letting 30,000 people into the Brac that are not being processed.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, could we get the page number, sorry, of the
105 to the domestic, strategic domestic air services. On page 105, it says one-way passengers carried to the Brac, 80 to 90,000. And this is number of passengers processed, 50 to 60,000. Planning estimates. If you don't have the answer, I just so know that you'll check it out and sort it out. That's all. That's good enough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once Cayman Airways representatives arrive, we'll get back to that question from the member.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, no problem.
Are you happy for me to proceed with approval or?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor of DAT2 Government Services in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman for $4,510,608 in 2018 and $4,691,939 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. DAT3 Management of Executive Assets in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman for $4,892,864 in 2018 and $4,727,418 in 2019. Although, any other
Mr. Chairman,
questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chairman, could the minister say what will the increase do in this particular vote, management of executive assets in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, thank the speaker for that question. The increase is little bit over $500,000 in 2018 and $416,000 in 2019. Mr. Chairman, the increase is due basically for stagnation allowance awarded in December. It's also the increased care premiums, and it goes to human resources, human capital, and Cayman Brac and Little Cayman for the stagnation and the extra employees. Okay.
Are there any further questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Sorry,
Member from
through-
Buttontown West.
sorry, through you, Mr. Chairman. I noticed that this DAT3 takes DAD 21, DAD 24, and DAD 26 in the budget statements. And as I'm looking at DAD 24, I think maybe a similar question to what the honorable member from West Bay West was asking. We know that there's a significant increase, but looking at it, I'm seeing more stuff about maybe roads or buildings, so I'm not sure in terms of the what the increase is, because about $500,000 increase thereabouts compared to the 2016-17 annualized. So it'd be on page 275 of the budget statement in particular.
Thank you. Thank the member for the question, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, again, the increase is the human capital aspect of what it takes to actually do the maintenance on the roads, what it takes for the engineering. If you look at how the budget is broken down, that's where the increases had to go.
Sorry, we're just so I'm clear. So we're increasing staff in that area.
In cost of staff.
Okay. So sorry. Just so I'm it's like well, if we're increase staff costs, it's either we're adding more employees or we're basically paying them more. So I'm trying to figure out which is it.
Paying them more. The stagnation pay that came in was more,
All right.
and the insurance benefits obviously went along with that.
Thank you, Mr. Honorable Deputy Premier.
Member Freeston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This construction of roads in Cayman Brac, I think this is the only place other than the capital to deal with that. Are we still paving, bringing those roads up to using asphalt to pave all the roads up there?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I thank the member for that question. The vote here, Mr. Chairman, is for the maintenance of the roads that are in place. Then there's a separate construction of new roads. So the asphalt aspect of it is going to be addressed in another vote as well.
I understand that, but in the quantity, we're talking about maintenance and construction.
Mr. Chairman, if you just give me a minute, I'm going to ask the Deputy Chief Officer for some clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the explanation for DAD 24, which rolls up into DAT 3, that is the actual cost of the human capital, the road crew, as we call them. The EA 55, which is actually the production of the asphalt, etc., the asphalt plant, is a capital expense that we'll get to in due course.
Mr. Chairman, I understand that. But I'm trying to determine, let's get to it now. Who is building these roads and maintaining these roads? Because this say roads are constructed to national engineering standard. Construction means there's new roads. That's not maintenance. Who is doing it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the road construction, as I mentioned, is through the Public Works section of District Administration in Cayman Brac.
So we don't use NRA personnel any longer to do paving in Cayman Brac.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think we still have one member of the NRA subcontracted to Public Works in Cayman Brac, but only one member.
You see, I don't know how they're having paved 50% of the roads in Cayman Brac, or maybe more. What's the percentage paved?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we estimate 75% of the roads have been paved. We've done the main roads, and now we're looking at the secondary roads.
75% of the roads have been paved in Cayman Brac. And we still have 250 to 350 miles to maintain. What is the total mileage of roads in Cayman Brac?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this is our estimate of main and secondary roads in Cayman Brac. So main roads, side roads, secondary roads, the estimate is between 250 to 300.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I am in agreement with that. There's probably maybe a little more even, I would think. Well, anyway, they estimate 350. Now, 75% of that is what? 200? That has already been paved with asphalt. Asphalt has a guarantee 15 years. I could give it 15. Usually it's 20 to 25 years that you don't have to repair it. But we consistently repair 250 to 350 miles of road. And that asphalt road in Cayman Brac has only been laid in the last 3 to 5 years. Maximum it has been is 5 years since we started. No, maybe a little more. When I left the ministry, I had all the equipment there, and it was taken to Cayman Brac sometime between 2009 to 2013. Sometime during that period. about, I want to say 2011-12, under the then minister, the current Minister of Education. What is it that last year we had 250 to 350 to maintain again?
Mr. Chairman, I think I can help the member because we've been centering the conversation and the thought around Cayman Brac. There's also Little Cayman that has quite a few miles of road. It has a North Coast Road, South Coast Road, and those roads are 11 miles long each, and they've got secondary roads. So that is also in the maintenance part of it and not in the asphalt part. Right,
But,
exactly.
Mr. Chairman, I hear the minister, but if memory serves me well, the plant was supposed to be taken to Little Cayman to do paving the last budget. That is what our explanation was, that we would, instead of bringing the plant back to Cayman, we were going to keep it there because we had so many roads in Little Cayman still to do as well. And I was going to get in that after on the other provision for roads, but it is no, so we didn't take the plant to Little Cayman to pave then, as we were told that would happen, or is that in the future?
Mr. Chairman, the member's correct. The plan is that once Cayman Brac roads are finished, the asphalt plant would then be moved to Little Cayman because it's a portable plant. The aspect of the water authority going into Cayman Brac and having to put pipe into the road has involved the re-asphalting of roads as the pipe goes in. So as you have made the point very clear, it makes a lot of sense in planning for us to finish what we're doing in Cayman Brac before we move the plant to Little Cayman.
Mr. Chairman, why is it that I have to repeat myself that I'm vindicated again? The minister will recall that I opposed the paving of the roads in Cayman Brac under the conditions that they were going to be done under. I said we needed to put in the main lines of water first, not the tributaries of the water, but the main lines, so we didn't have to dig them up. We put the cart before the horse. In this instance, again, is going to cost us forever. Mr. Chairman, when we get to the capital one, I'll deal with that.
Are there other questions? If not, I put question. All those in favor of DAT 3, management, Mrs. Member for Georgetown South, you had a question, did you? No? Okay. All those in favor of DAT 3, management of executive assets in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, in the amount of $4,892,864 in 2018 and $4,727,418 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it. DAT 5, inspection, testing, and licensing services for $788,504 in 2018 and $772,060 in 2019. Are there any questions? Member for East End.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I wonder if the minister can tell us if all accommodation in this country is up to scratch with the paying of that tourism accommodation tax.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask the Director of Tourism to come and answer the question. Through you, Mr. Chairman. If I understand the question from the member, it is, are all tourism properties licensed and paying tourism tax? Is that the correct?
Mr. Chairman, and I don't remember how much it is, and I'll rely on the minister for this, but we have a room tax per accommodation. And that is required to be put into the general revenue based on a per night spent. Are those up to scratch?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the Cayman Islands have over 6,000 rooms registered now with the Department of Tourism, which go through inspection.
Get this count.
The Department of Tourism, with the director sitting here, is comfortable that they pay their room tax. But there is also a sharing community that is a global growth for whether it's Uber or whether it's Airbnb, vacation rental by owner, that is a phenom that has started to come online. The Department of Tourism is vigilant as far as how they monitor and how they review the numbers that are actually taking advantage of this sharing community that actually drills down into renting a specific room. For me as the minister to sit here today and tell the member, who is my good friend, that every room that is rented on this island, a tourism tax is paid on, I don't think I could tell you that and feel comfortable without explaining to you what we are trying to do from the Department of Tourism and how we're trying to monitor that. The overall holistic way, if you look at it and you say arrivals are growing and tourism tax is growing, you know it's trending in the right direction. If you say, which has happened in other regional destinations, arrivals are growing and tourism tax is shrinking, you know you have a major problem. Our trending is heading in the right way. I hope that's as specific as I can be from where I sit. If there are other questions, again, the director is here, and I'm sure she can drill down into it for you.
Okay. You see, we're good friends. Maybe you must have been reading my mind then. But, Mr. Chairman, there are no exceptions in the law as to accommodation tax. None whatsoever. Once that those premises is registered as an accommodation premises, whenever anyone sleeps in that, if they sleep for half a night after going out till 1 o'clock in the morning, they are required to pay that tax. Now, here we are being taken advantage of again, especially at the condos, where people buy these condos as investments, then put them in the tourism accommodation pool and send their friends. And they do not believe they have to pay because they carve out that one weekend for their friends or alternatively, they get paid for it in their country of origin and say it is friends or family that is going to stay there. What are we doing to ensure that whenever these things are occupied, they pay that tax, whether it's friend family or four?
Thank, finish? Thank you, member. Through you, Mr. Chair, the member will see that the enforcement arm has been strengthened this year with hiring another officer as inspector for enforcement. I don't think it would be prudent for us to sit here this morning and tell you exactly what they're doing as far as how they look at how people are putting their properties for rent, but I'll ask the director just to speak a little bit about what they've done from her department and as much as she can share.
Director, before you welcome, please state your name and your position before you answer the question, just for the record.
Good morning, Rosa Harris, Director of Tourism. Thank you for the question. This year we added, as the Honorable Deputy Premier mentioned, one hotel inspector because of the influx of the sector and the need to have a better handle on who is renting or who is illegally renting. We scan the internet, and we also have fostered relationships with the two largest online sites that allow private owners to put their homes or condos online for rent. We've been able to explain the Cayman Islands tourism laws and the requirements for the inspections and the hotel license, and also explain that we need to share information for this requirement to be met. But as was previously stated, there are persons that try to circumvent this process. On average, we have about 25 to 30 properties that are illegally renting. We have a list of them. They range from condominiums to boats, even, that are online. And we follow up with them in terms of, are they going to apply, what the requirements are, and we also publish this information on our website. Should we receive information that there are visitors, then fees are assessed and sent out. So there are surcharges that we're able to assess if we see a rate online to be able to send a bill to. And usually that gets the owner or the property manager moving in terms of becoming compliant with the hotel licensing process. So with a pool of 6,129 rooms across the Cayman Islands, we have approximately 25 to 30 properties that we know for sure that are illegally renting. But what is great about the tourism industry is that there's a lot of sharing of information from the private sector. So even if we're not aware of something, our partners feel strongly about everyone being treated fairly. So we have other property managers or owners that will indicate activity that they feel is not right or is illegal, that they know someone may be renting illegally. So that information comes into DOT from the community very willingly. We believe we have a very good handle on it now, having 2 hotel inspectors on board. Just to give an update in terms of the properties licensed, this time last year we had 182 properties licensed. As of today, we have 315 properties licensed, with the season closing out for inspections very shortly. So we do have a very good handle with the added human resources support with the second hotel inspector to, 1, get properties inspected, but 2, be able to monitor the sector for illegal activity. Thank you.
That is a lot of information, but and I thank the director for that. What tools do you have at your disposal for those trying to fight for the people in this country? And well, because I see, look like everybody starting business now. Whether they got, and it must be a lot of fronting to do all these both things as well. But what tools do you have available? And I'm going into another set of tools in a little bit, but what tools do you have available to correct this?
I assume, through you, Mr. Chairman, I assume you're talking about the actual fine that's available through the justice system?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what tools are available and being used to ensure those 25 to 30 get in line.
So let us understand that globally, this is one of the fastest growing areas for visitation and attracting visitors to your destination. So it's the situation of we want to understand how to manage it and take advantage of it. The vigilance of the Department of Tourism in hiring another inspector last year, budgeting for it, and putting them with the tools to move forward is certainly a step in the right direction. In the perfect world, she would have probably hired 2 or 3, but the budget didn't allow it. If you look at the growth of registered properties, I think that'll show that there's been success, that the people who are coming online understand whether it's the neighbor reporting them, Department of Tourism finding them online and calling them, or a fine that has gone out around the neighborhood. You can see that is being strengthened. Also, again, I go over that the trend is going in the right way with tourism tax and arrivals both growing, and then the laws of the Cayman Islands gives them the ability that if they find them doing that, to fine them a certain amount per day. The last part of it is that, as the director said, she has met, her and her team have met with these companies that do the rental. There are different methods in discussion of maybe they would collect the tourism tax and remit it directly to the government. This is not only a problem that the Cayman Islands are facing, this is a problem that we're facing as an industry globally. And the information sharing from the director and the Department of Tourism is looking at the best solution for this.
I'm sorry, my good friend, but I didn't get that. It just hit me and it didn't register. I'm talking, and that may be me, but that wasn't what I wanted to hear. Really, what the director has just told us that they know of 25 to 30 that is illegally renting in this country. Those are the ones I want to know what we're doing with. You know it's breaking the law. What are we doing? What are the tools available? I can't. About people calling in and reporting, the only thing that's going to do is add a couple more on this, and if we go talk to them and they straighten up their thing, I'm not concerned about those, because that means that's what the inspection is doing, is effective. I'm talking about those that we know. I want to know what we're doing about those.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, what we do is look at review sites like TripAdvisor, or if we actually get a complaint sometimes, and then we look at our registered list or licensed list of properties, and that property is not on there, that is then evidence to prove, 1, the party size, and 2, when that party stayed at that specific property. If we gain that type of evidence within the tourism law, we're able to charge $100 per person per day as a fine to that property. Outside of having specific evidence, such as the guest providing information, whether it's through a complaint, whether it's through a positive review, or otherwise, we have to have some evidence that that party stayed at that property that is not licensed. That would be the process, sir, and the mechanism for holding that property accountable who does not hold a hotel license.
So are we saying then, am I understanding, that this 25 to 30 that is doing it illegally is subsistent, is continually doing it, and we're charging them $100 a day right now?
If I may, through you, Mr. Chairman, provide an example. So we work with one of the larger sharing community online websites. It is actually a software algorithm, and they pre-approve a host, which would be someone who wants to rent, okay? They don't ask for much information. We then have to insert ourselves and say, give us your listing, or we see this property on your list. They do not have a hotel license. They are required to have a hotel license. So of these 25 to 30 properties, if they're listed on a specific site that we have an agreement with, if they do not produce the license after a particular time, we have an agreement that that site will take them down. So they're not able to promote themselves on that specific site. Outside of having proof or actually showing up to see guests at the site, we're unable to enforce any fees or have any type of legal action because the tourism laws would have to be modernized in a way to support that without specific evidence that someone is staying at the property.
And we don't prosecute them?
We prosecute the ones that we have evidence on. If someone's staying there and they're not licensed, if they're promoting on a site, we get them taken down. Or if we have other information that's tied to a complaint or a review, if we can say this person, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, stayed at this property October 1st through 7th, and I know that they did because they reviewed your site, yes, now the government does have grounds to charge $100 per person per day to that illegal property.
Okay, I got to come off this, but one last question. Do we specifically, consistently monitor those premises?
Yes, sir. That is why we brought on the second hotel inspector, so that we weren't consistently backlogged with in the field activity, because a part of the responsibilities of the two hotel inspectors are to also comb websites and look for this type of evidence of illegal renting.
Okay. I wanted to go into another area now, which is gratuitous.
The member from East End, can we
Yeah, I just
give
wanna-
way to the member for Northside?
One clarification. Do they also need a trade and business license to be promoting rental properties in Cayman? And don't we have penalties under the trade and business license if they don't have one of those that they could also be charged under?
The great wheel, you don't remember, you change it and put it up to five you can have? Put it on there, you don't need trade and business license up to 5. He did it here. I seen government over you.
Director?
Mr. Chairman, through you,
That's the reason they did it.
in order to operate a tourism accommodations license as a short-term property, you would go through the licensing and inspection process through the hotel licensing board. The trade and business license isn't a requirement. Also, from a liquor licensing standpoint, the hotel license is also a requirement in order to qualify for that. So they're somewhat connected. If I was to open a hotel property, I would need my hotel license in order to qualify for my liquor license, but the trade and business license, no. Typically, though, depending on the scale of the property, if it's a very large property, they would already have an incorporation or trade and business license, and then they're coming in for their hotel license. If it's a small cottage, they would only go through the hotel licensing board process, which is the requirements for fire, DEH, and tourism.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair,
Member for Georgetown Central.
I just have one follow-up question off of the member from East End.
Could I ask you, member, to please speak into your mic so we
Sorry,
can,
thank you, Mr. Chair.
otherwise it doesn't get recorded.
A follow-up question from the member of East End's assessment in respect to penalizing persons who offer hotel room and board that are not licensed. Under the criminal code, a person can be penalized for intent. Is it a suggestion by the board that to stop this kind of behavior, maybe for us to make changes to legislation that if you can find evidence of intent, that they can be also fined? Because I think it's obvious that if they've put themselves on a site, regardless of we find evidence of them having somebody in the location or not, they intended to commit a crime if they didn't have the license.
To answer the question, Mr. Chairman, the Department of Tourism manages the sector through the tourism law, for which to penalize any person, given the example of illegal renting, will have to go through the process of summary court, which is a lengthy process. I know that our ministry has reviewed the tourism laws and have intent for reform. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Sorry, you.
Member for Newlands.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up. What role does CEDA play in helping you to police this? Because I may be wrong, but it's been said to me that some of these illegal properties have shown up on their website from time to time. I don't know how well they're vetted. I don't know if that's even 100% accurate, but it's been said to me that there have been cases where these illegal properties have shown up on the CEDA website as members.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, thank the member for that question. SITA is a very important part of the tourism product of the Cayman Islands. They have a very strong organization. They participate in advertising, public relations, and building throughput of visitors. I don't know of people being on their website that weren't licensed. If they were there, they would be low-hanging fruit for the hotel inspectors to look at. But I would think that in the relationship that we have with CITA, that they would not allow that if they knew about it. And they represent the majority of the properties here, and certainly clearly understand the value of keeping our industry as best practice as it possibly can.
Mr. Chair.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I apologize. I didn't quite get the full understanding of what the response was. In stating again, the question was, is the department's advice to, if the law was changed, can we hold these people for intent? I was hoping for a simple yes or no, but I was kind of unclear of what the answer was. Sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I thank the member for that question, but I'm not an attorney, and neither is director. We will try to ask that question and see if that's answer it the best way we can. Mr. Chairman, if I could, I would just like to add something to the last question. The director reminded me that we also share the property list with the Tourism Association, so they have that current with them. Okay.
Member for Baden Town West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, sir. Just for my own understanding, I know there is a tourism accommodation tax, which is a percentage of the bill that the government earns. Is there also another fee that we charge properties, like on a per room basis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the member, thank you very much for the question. There's a per room fee.
Okay, that's the one that falls under the hotel licenses. Okay, thanks.
Member for East End, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the minister know this has been a vexing matter for a very long time, and it affects our very vulnerable Caymanian workers, wherein grants are not supposed to be shared amongst management. And it continues. You can't have 70 and 80% occupancy and people taking home $30 a week or $50 a week in grats, which makes up their wages, and you have applied 15% across the board in that hotel. How often do we inspect the books of these institutions? Accommodation, hotels, whatever we want to call it.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the issue of grats would fall under labor.
Yeah, but tourism has a responsibility to inspect, as inspectors, to inspect those accommodations. And in the interest of like you say, the value it is to the country, then if not a constitutional responsibility, at the very least your ministry has a moral responsibility to ensure Caymanians are protected from the industry that you're regulating and managing.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the director has just explained that the Department of Tourism inspects the revenue received. I think that's what you were asking for.
Revenue to apply, to see that they confirm with the fees that has to be paid, with the tax.
Correct.
And labor then has to go in to see if gratuities are distributed in accordance with the law.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, correct.
Somehow we need to dovetail these things, because labor was here yesterday. Labor not here now. They were here yesterday. And that is one of the main areas, and they have no narrative in here that they deal with that. Because they don't, maybe. Isn't that? The previous administration, Mr. Chairman, after much consternation, implemented the minimum wage. Part of that was that the tourism industry can apply, your industry can utilize gratuities for up to 20% of that pay. Am I correct? 20%? I guess I must be right. Silence. What we're hearing now is that the Ministry of Tourism has no responsibility for that, to ensure that that meets the minimum wage requirement. So if not, then I guess it's shared up amongst management, which is precisely the opposite from what the law says.
Are there any other questions? Member from North Side.
The last budget cycle, 18 months ago, I brought up about, I think rent cars put on their bill a government tax, which you all told me was not a government tax, and it was supposed to be investigated and ask them to, if they're not paying it to government, I don't think they should be using that terminology. Because if you see something on and says it's government tax, very few people challenge it. And you were supposed to investigate it and report back. Now, heard anything about it.
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mr. Chairman, what we have found has been practice amongst private sector and also across all categories is an environmental and energy surcharge, which has become commonplace. A lot of the accommodations outside of your question about car rental add a resort fee, which covers services like Wi-Fi and toys on the beach, et cetera, just amenities in general. But relating to the specific category of car rental, we have seen more and more notifications from tourism companies on an environmental fee and an energy surcharge. Thank you.
And they don't have to justify that it's based on some government intervention. Because the government don't get any of those fees, right?
That is correct, sir. We have no legislation that would cover the Department of Tourism being able to manage or monitor or direct how they assess those additional fees, sir.
There are no further
Mr. Chair.
questions?
Yeah, just one more question.
Go ahead, Member
The
for.
tourism accommodation tax that we charge, what percentage is that we charge for the rooms?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, for timeshare, it's $10 a day, and for hotel, it's 13%.
13%, thank you very much. And the per room charge that what we charge per room in terms of, like you said earlier, the other revenue stream was that there's a flat per room charge
For the license fee.
for the
Once
license.
a year.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, you'll have to pardon me. I don't have those fees, but I can get them to you. It's a two-tiered system for a hotel license. It's based on the size of your property, whether it's 10 rooms or under or over 10 rooms, and then there's a per room charge. But the specifics right now leaves me, and I can follow up with those specifics for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Final question, Mr. Member from East End.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. I was merely looking at some that is going to come, and this is just a comment. It is ironic that we spend the money out of the coffers to support tourism providers, but it appears like we don't spend money to ensure that they protect our own people, and that is enforced, that they are giving them equal opportunities, such as giving them their gratuities in a manner that is prescribed by law.
All those in favor of DAT 5, inspection and testing and licensing services, $788,504 in 2018 and $772,060 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it. DAT 6, public education programs, for $1,115,004 in 2018 and $1,026,081 in 2019. Are there any questions? Member for Newlands.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to find out how many of these customer service workshops are focused on individual districts or done on a district by district basis, or are they all centralized in one area?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mr. Chairman, our Pride team offers open workshops on a monthly basis. There are two types of workshops: Promises, which is customer service focused, and Know Your Cayman Islands, which gives the history and heritage of the Cayman Islands. Any entity within tourism and support areas, so we have gas stations, security firms, retail, sign up their employees for the monthly workshops. It's open. At the moment, we have locations that are roving depending on availability. They're typically in Georgetown, but anyone can sign up and participate specifically for tourism businesses, but we welcome anyone who'd like to improve customer service. As you know, our visitors explore the island and interact with many different areas of the Cayman Islands. Thank you.
There are no further questions. All those in favor of DAT?
Sorry, I did have a quick follow-up, Mr.
Go ahead,
Chairman.
sir.
If you're looking at in the quality section of this vote, all tourism education programs will be designed and delivered to meet CIDOT's performance metrics. Could you speak a little bit to those metrics and what the performance metrics would be?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mr. Chairman, the ASTD is a standard that we adopted from the onset of the program. All of our trainers go through ASTD training. They also are trained with how to develop workshops, meaning how to maximize the course material, how much interaction in terms of teamwork or interactivity that is hosted. In terms of quality, there are elements of testing to see how much retention throughout the day, whether it's a half day or full day workshop, with all candidates that sign up for workshops.
All those in favor of DAT?
No, one question.
Oops, sorry, sir.
Is there any opportunity to take these seminars into the schools, particularly the high schools?
Thank you for the question, sir. Through you, Mr. Chairman. We do, and we have, on request at times, through our tourism careers and awareness programs, we welcome any opportunity to do so. We have a regular scheduling within the curriculum for the School of Hospitality Studies, and for the schools that have specific tourism programs, such as SciFec, and some of the private sector schools have initiated DOT to come in and do Pride training. So on all levels, the program is adaptable from young to mature. Thank you.
All those in favor of DAT 6 public education programs for $1,115,004 in 2018 and $1,026,081 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye. Aye. And those against, no. The ayes have it. DAT 7, Tourism Public Relations, for $1,387,160 in 2018 and $1,340,817 in 2019. Are there any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Member for Baden-Town West.
Thank you, sir. Through you, I noticed that the annualized spend in that area has dropped from 1.7 million to less than 1.4 million. So unless that's going someplace else, I'm just a bit curious as to why they decreased, but I noticed that the activity based on the quantity in some cases has actually gone up. So I was just curious.
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mr. Chairman, as a matrix organization, we have teams in multiple business locations globally. And from time to time, we make shifts from PR to media, where you may see the monies budgeted show up in advertising, but still have a support and activity from public relations. At times, there are integrated approaches, and that's what's happened here. we have a goal of attaining more broadcast globally, but mainly from the United States. So you'll see some movement on the advertising side, which is a different output in the budget, but would still have a level, quite a bit of public relations activity, whether it's a press conference, a media release, interviews. So the activity would either remain the same or increase, but the spend would most likely be in another area. So public relations output is seen as a support to overall marketing and advertising. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the director, I just want to find out the unfortunate disaster with the hurricane recently in this hurricane season has obviously made it difficult for other Caribbean islands, our competing market. Obviously, from one of the advantages, if there's any, to a disaster like that is allowing us to have an advantage over those who have been damaged. The question that comes to mind is, obviously we can see that there's an increase in advertising, and then there's an increase in sales and tourism promotion for both years, 2018 and 2019. Has the director and the department taken into consideration the benefit we'll get from that, and do they still think that the increase, because based on my numbers on those two line items, DAT9 and DAT8, there's going to be an increase of $2 million combined between the two over each year, considering the fact that we're still being at an advantage to the rest of the region in respect to the product that we sell.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. I think we're on 7 now, so we're going to combine 7, 8, and 9, which I don't think the director or I mind at all, because you're getting better value, as she just explained, of how she moved PR money around. So fair question that was asked. I'd like to look at what happened to the Cayman Islands before the hurricane damage in the Eastern Caribbean. And you see the trend is that June, July, August, we're trending 5 to 14% better every month. So our marketing was working, our room stock was up, our more flights were bringing more visitors. The question about the unfortunate situation in Eastern Caribbean, losing some of their accommodations, and what we had budgeted to continue to build to 400,000 this year, up to the growth every year of where we want to go and how we build our economy with tourism arrivals as the tool, was not thought about or contemplated when the budget was put together. But it wouldn't have mattered if we had known that the Eastern Caribbean was going to be hit, because the economy of the Eastern Caribbean is based around tourism, and that is going to be the first thing that recovers. And if you look at the information coming out on a daily basis of the properties that are opening, the cruise lines that are going in, and the new properties that are being planned and opened, remember, this influx of money to the Eastern Caribbean is creating a whole new product out there that we here have to compete against. And we have to be cognizant of the fact that every time we grow arrivals, we grow our economy. So if we had based the numbers on the increased amount in the budget, we would have been happy to have received more money for marketing and PR and bringing visitation numbers up. We believe that, as director has said, how she's moved money around with her team to get best value, that we will continue to grow and be okay. And I hope that I can impress upon the member that the catastrophe in the Eastern Caribbean is not to be looked at as something that we will be able, as a destination, to take advantage of for a long period of time.
For,
Mr.
Member
Chair,
for Newlands?
just to follow up, one more question.
Oh, go ahead.
Fair answer from the Deputy Premier. Because the budget was made beforehand, before the disasters hit and the projections and the like. But I think we would acknowledge now that, particularly with some of the Eastern Caribbean islands, with their billing codes and the like, it's going to be possibly even at least another year before they get back up to where they were before. So, using basic common sense, the expectation is that we may get a small market share, more than expected. So the next question for me is, do we have enough room stock to prepare for that increase? And has there been any assessment done? What is the government's plan in respect to trying to take advantage of an unfortunate opportunity for the Cayman Islands?
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank the member for the question again. There is not, the room stock, even with the new rooms that have been added, will allow us to grow our arrivals. But if you look at the pre-book numbers for the season coming up, before the issues with the hurricanes, you will realize that the season had quite strong bookings. The other part of that is that our average daily rate, as he talked about, is first or second in the region. So that shows you that demand that was already here before the issues of the Eastern Caribbean. So we will continue our marketing plan to look at the peaks and valleys, to build where we have room capacity, and encourage a flattening out over the 12-month period to increase the business and increase the months that used to be slow, that the business had to look at how they would employ their people and keep them employed, that we continue to build those up to level out our tourism product.
Member for Newlands?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I have a slightly different view on the effects of these disasters, these natural disasters in other Caribbean jurisdictions. I think we need to be very careful, because and I'm thinking primarily of cruise tourism. If someone is booking a Caribbean cruise and half of the potential destinations have been decimated by a hurricane, that cruise is going to be less attractive. So while Cayman may be all, ready and available for them to come here, part of their decision-making process is going to be, well, where else is the ship going to stop? So I think we have to be a little bit mindful of planning strategies around those disasters, and maybe be a bit more supportive of those countries rebuilding their product as well. I know we can't do it financially, but I know this government has been trying to assist, because we can't do it all in isolation. I think what we need to do is make sure that we modernize and move our product forward, but look out for the best interest of the region as well. We market the Caribbean mostly to other jurisdictions, and the attractiveness of the Caribbean is going to be based on the readiness of these other countries getting back up to scratch. So I would caution against planning and the strategies around what these other countries are doing and how long it'll take to rebuild, because it's going overall. I think these disasters, while we weren't touched, will affect our cruise, especially cruise passenger arrivals.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the member is correct, and I appreciate him bringing this up. What we have done is very similar to what he's outlined there. We're participating with the Caribbean Tourism Organization in allowing a marketing campaign that talks about the region as a destination, meaning that if you show the region, then people independently look at which one has the attributes that they want. So this one might have a better beach, this one might have a better mountain, this one might have a better spa, and you work to be top of mind in that. So yes, the Department of Tourism and the ministry is looking at us as a combined destination, a regional destination, and we participate with that. We also, to go back to the member from Georgetown Central, we also look at the unfortunate situation in Puerto Rico, which has a lot of group business, and that is opportunistic there of carving out one area that you know is not going to be available, but keeping them in the region that the next time they have a conference that they want to think about, that they continue to think about the Caribbean and not the Mediterranean.
All those in favor of DAT7, Tourism Public Relations, in the amount of $1,387,160 in 2018 and $1,340,817 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. DAT8, Tourism Advertising Activities, for $7,890,622 in 2018 and $7,956,788 in 2019. Are there any questions? All those in favor of DAT8, Tourism Advertising Activities, in the amount of $7,890,622 in 2018 and $7,956,788 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. DAT9, Tourism Sales and Promotion, for $5,393,942 in 2018 and $5,634,400 in 2019. Are there any questions?
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, sir.
over here. I just want to take this opportunity to congratulate the department in respect to this amazing magazine that was presented by the Deputy Premier last evening in respect to Cayman Vows, creating and promoting Cayman as a destination for marriage and weddings, something that is very important to family life and relationships and the like, and growth in our community. I think they did an amazing job. I had a look at the magazine, my wife and I, and if I had to get married all over again, it would definitely entice me to do this, to get married here in the Cayman Islands. So I would like to say, on behalf of the director and their team and the minister in charge, look like to be on the right track in that respect.
Thank you. No questions?
Yes,
All
sir.
those- you do have a question.
I'll let you
Okay.
get away there.
Go right ahead, Member Ford.
In terms of promotion of the Cayman Islands, how much of this is focused on the eastern districts?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mr. Chairman, our advertising, we're on advertising, correct? Yes.
Yes,
Our-
DAT9.
Yeah. So our advertising activity focuses on the sales.
Sales and promotion.
Sales and promotion would speak to our overseas locations. So we have marketing and sales reps that do travel agent trainings, that do trade shows and events to promote the Cayman Islands in Canada, in the UK, and in the United States. We also have an agency that works for us to promote in Latin America, which covers Brazil, Argentina, and now Mexico. So as it relates to these activities, it's those persons that would be in the field to ensure that travel agents are producing, they're aware of the incentive programs, they know about the product and the offerings on island. They have opportunities to visit Cayman to have a firsthand knowledge of what the experience is like. and also meet the main players and understand the activities available for their clients to partake in. There was acknowledgement of our Cayman Vows magazine. That is a selling tool. Our partners had an opportunity to advertise, to increase the awareness of their services. So you have event planners, you have photographers, you have locations that are highlighted in that magazine. That magazine is also used by our sales team to be able to convey to those travel advisors that may sell weddings and honeymoons, etc., the opportunity to have a one-stop shop reference guide. So the men and women that work for the Cayman Islands globally would operate out of this. This isn't locally based, this is international activity. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I could add to that, the Eastern Districts, Moritz and Wyndham run extremely high occupancy year-round. Two very, very successful properties that generate a lot of tourism activity in the Eastern District. Northside is a different type of top market destination. I think that they do a lot of repeat guests there and a lot of private homes there. If I can offer the opportunity in Bodden Town is what we've been trying to build with Pedro, and if when the director of the turtle farm comes up, you might want, or I'll ask him to share with you the experiences that they've had in cross-marketing Pedro and Botanical Garden to set up cruise tours there. And it has been the initiative and the partnership that shows the growth there. They've also now opened the food court and doing a happy hour, which you know about, so they're starting to generate some business there. And then there's obviously a new property that is quite a ways along. They've started to clear some of their property. So with the advent of the member from East End expanding the road network east, it starts making it quicker and faster to get into the Bodden Town area, and we look to try to allow that to benefit a lot more from the cruise passengers.
Go ahead, sir. Thank Mr. Chairman. I and I may be straying a little bit outside of the parameters of this particular item, but what I'm trying to get at is we want to develop tourism in the Eastern Districts, but I understand that what you can offer in, West Bay Road, that area is going to be different than what is suitable for the Eastern Districts. But do we have a strategy to develop that, or a plan? Because I appreciate what the Deputy Premier is saying about Pedro and so on. We appreciate that, but clearly my wish is, my dream is to see that Bodden Towners in particular can live and work in the same district. And I don't want to see Bodden Town develop into a commercial center. I want to see tourism being developed and flourishing there. So do we have a plan? I know we had to go east some time ago, which I think no one really pushed forward. But what I'd like to see is the development of a plan that and marketing campaigns and incentives for individuals in the Eastern District, so we can build our tourism product. And as my colleagues are saying, we want to share in that effort. We want to be consultants in that. We're the ones who are trying to drive this activity in our districts, so in our constituencies. So it'd be important that we be involved in that effort.
And you would support it? You would support it? You can hear. You can hear. You just.
Member for East End, do you have a question?
Through
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, a member from Bodden Town. Yes, I want to say yes. There's a focus, as you know, because you were involved in some of the talks with St. James Point, and the way you articulated your feeling and what you wanted for Bodden Town. I know you have said that to the developer directly, and they are moving ahead. They have been in discussions. They have been clearing some of the property there and combining. So I think that's a very positive step for the Bodden Town area, and 300 plus rooms that should come out of the ground shortly. The other aspect of it is there's some very successful properties in the Bodden Town area now, in kind of the historical area as you drive down. There are a lot of tourists that are attracted there now that actually drive there. The Department of Tourism, with their Pride programs and their educational programs, have done the best to focus on small businesses that want partnership and expertise available, and they make that available. As the director said, if you have somebody that you want, pick up the phone and call, and certainly there to be arranged. The cultural aspect of the Bodden Town area is the opportunity for expanding the cruise. When you have more time on island, and they're allowed to penetrate a little bit deeper east into that road network that's been created, you will see a tremendous influx of people into the Bodden Town area on a daily basis. And that was the purpose of not doing upland development and new cruise berthing facility, to push them into the community.
Member for Savannah, right?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Following up on my colleague from Newlands and listening to the Honorable Minister, I just want to remind and invite you and the director to visit Nurse Joseph Senior Center, like our Honorable Speaker has done, and see what is there and how we can best tap into it. It's an incredible collection, one of the greatest collections of culture and heritage in the Cayman Islands, and I would encourage you. Thank you.
To lend that same encouragement to the department, because they have put so much work into it, and there's so much contained. We talk about our heritage, we talk about our culture, and it is all there. Yesterday, that's what I was trying to get across. I wouldn't go into it too much, but that's what I was trying to say, that, you know, even MLAs can develop programs themselves to encourage people, elderly, for instance, to utilize it. But I certainly want to lend my support to the thoughts of the member from Newlands.
Mr. Chairman,
Member from Bodden Town West.
thank you very much, sir. Through you, sir, I'm just curious in terms of where we are in terms of updating the National Tourism Management Plan.
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mr. Chairman. In 2016, we hired Solomar International to take us through the assessment process for our tourism sector, with the aim to review and deliver national tourism plan. We do have a draft ready for review. The draft outlines some of the challenges the sector faces, some of the growth areas, the capacity that we now currently see, and the opportunities that are on the horizon. The steps that the Department of Tourism wishes to take is to have government review the draft of the new National Tourism Plan and support for it for implementation. So the plan is ready. We're just waiting for this process to conclude with the review of budget, and hopes for the minister to be able to share the plan with his colleagues. Thank you.
Member from East End.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I was going to bring it up under the other, but it looks like we're doing everything, and I think that's one of the things that we should do, is lump all these similar subheadings into one vote, and then, you know, we can into one discussion, not one vote, which is a practice in here anyway. So one of the things, following on with my colleagues about what is happening on the eastern end and not wanting 7 and 10-story buildings on the eastern end of the island. I'm not going to support that, no matter who brings it. I am concerned about, I don't have a problem with 5 stories. I'll deal with that. But in keeping with the character on the eastern end, we have always tried to support, promote bed and breakfast, because that's something that I believe this country really needs. It exposes our visitors to the real Caymanian culture. I wonder if the government has at any time considered incentives and support for that area, such as we talk about small business. That's a small business that Caymanians can get into. And I recall there are many places in the Caribbean, such as like Barbados, when your gross revenue does not exceed $1 million, everything for that small business is free. I mean, you still got registered and go through all the processes, but there are no fees and that kind of stuff. Have we thought of going in that direction, particularly for the eastern districts, Baden Town, East and North Side, to keep that character, but try to encourage people, give them incentives to go to bed and breakfast?
Through you, Mr. Chair, anytime that an investor, a private individual, has an interest in doing something from the tourism aspect, they're encouraged to come and sit down with government and explain what their ideas are and what their interest is, and government is willing to consider it, to look at it. And I would say that at this time there are a couple different people that are sitting down and sharing ideas of what they want to do in the line of small villas. A bed and breakfast has been discussed, and then the opportunities of, again, the sharing community of being able to access marketing through an Airbnb initiative or a similar product, which allows them to attract people inexpensively. So that is something that we're happy to sit down and talk about.
Mr. Chairman, why does the minister keep saying he's my good friend and then trying to avoid my question? That is not friendship, because I'm not getting anything out of this. It seems like we are going to have to terminate this friendship, man. I ain't getting a thing out of it. And friendship is about sharing, eh? So, Mr. Chairman, what I'm asking, and that was a point of levity, I guess. Mr. Chairman, what I'm trying to find out, okay, we give developers hundreds and hundreds of millions of what we call it, concessions. A bed and breakfast, we're talking building a building, probably $1 million. Where that, say 8, 9 rooms, bed and breakfast, 5, 6, that brings revenue to the government for long term, because they got to pay for accommodation stuff. I'm trying to find out from you, my good friend, if we are prepared to give absolute 100% concessions to Caymanians who wants to go into that in the tourism industry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I tried to give him credit for the road network east, but I don't think it was all him that should get credit for that. I want my good friend to know that now. There are more people. Here is the direct answer to your question. There has been a young Caymanian lady who has come and sat down and talked about a bed and breakfast in the Eastern District of the Cayman Islands. And we, from my ministry, have encouraged her that is something that we support. I think that's a direct answer. She did not ask.
You should offer. That's what I'm trying to ask. Let us encourage our own people into these things. That's what we want. That is we used to say, I don't know if we still do, that our people is our greatest assets in the tourism industry. That when it started, the interaction with our people was what sold this country. Here we are now. The only thing we hear at the hotels and the accommodation, the tourism accommodation, is Chingnangchu and Cholawau and the Spanish and the what have you. And that's making it, oversimplifying it. But I want to see us get back to this, selling our country through the very people who built the country. And if there are people in this country now, they're young, I know what you're talking about. There are young people who, they can come up, they have accumulated sufficient asset to borrow $1 million to build a nice little five thing. Give them 100% incentive concession to do it. That's where we need to go. How many of them we gonna get? On $1 million, how much money we were going to get in taxes? 10,000? 50,000 out of it? For the life of that place, we're going to collect, the government is going to collect 2-3 million in accommodation tax. That's what we're talking about. But we continually give everybody else but us. I don't know. I mean, to lose 50,000 and build a nation build. That's part of nation building. That the Honorable Speaker started years ago. I mean, you may say what you want about it, but nation building is part of the responsibility of the legislators.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, there is a hotel aid law that's in place now that gives incentives to the Eastern District. Isn't that an incentive? The other, through you, Mr. Speaker, the other specific issue and person we were talking about, I'll finish the answer to him with this, that the incentive on top of what was available wasn't asked for because there were other parts of the development that had to be taken care of before discussions continued.
Do you believe, my friend, that if government were to take a policy decision on offering that to people to go to East End, like we did with Kim and Brack, when many years ago, the speaker behind you was partly responsible, the Minister of Education. I have been in here where I've been in cabinet, where we extend incentives for people to go to Kim and Brack. That's what I'm asking. You mean, as good friends as we are, you can't even try to extend that to me? And I did it for Kim and Brack.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the point is taken. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Member for Bottom Town West.
I feel bad for my friend in East End because our plan is to get them to stop in Bottom Town on the way to East End.
Well, I was speaking for you, Washington.
And, well, that's good. Through you, Mr. Chairman, just, I guess, in the vein of expanding tourism opportunities, more than 10 years ago, there was a law that we had that was taken off the books. It was a law that forced Cayman registered companies to basically have the annual board meetings in the Cayman Islands. Now, for tax purposes, they can't have those meetings in the U.S. And a lot of our companies are U.S. based. So they actually go elsewhere. I think one of the positives that came out of that law was even the IMAC conference, because a lot of those insurance companies used to come at a particular time of the year and they just turn it into a conference, and we see what IMAC has become out of that. But I think it is high time that where tourism and financial services coordinate, that we actually put it back, because at the end of the day, it's a benefit having these companies here, but also having them to have their board meetings here. And that's one of the things that had really helped our tourism numbers in the 90s. And I think it's something that I'm hoping that you guys will look back at as you're developing your tourism plan of bringing that back. Because right now, as it stands, they are going elsewhere. They're going to our competitors. And at a minimum, if they're going to be Cayman-based companies, I think they should be coming here even once a year. So I think that is something that you guys should be looking back to bring it back.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I thank the member very much for that, especially the Minister for Financial Services is here as well, and we'll certainly flag that and see how we can use that to our advantage.
Mr. Chairman.
Member for Northside.
Yeah, just to ask the minister if there's any possibility of us from the eastern districts meeting with you and the people who are doing the tourism development plan, just to address the eastern end of it prior to it being finalized, because we would like to have some input before it is finalized and presented on our desk.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, absolutely. We'll put a date together that works for you and works for us, and we look forward to that.
Mr. Chair, I would ask through you that those that same request be extended to Georgetown Central, please.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, can I not ask the minister if this is not normal? Because I know in the past, when we've gone through and revised it, we do have discussions with a whole range of people, including MLAs. That is the case. Am I not right?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, that's correct. There was district meetings and focus groups that were done, but they have not been completed yet because we wanted to finish up, and we're certainly happy to include. Absolutely. Thank you.
All those in favor of DAT 9, tourism, sales, and promotion, for $5 million. You had further questions, sir? For $5,393,942 and in 2018, and $5,634,400 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, no. The ayes have it. DAT 10, tourism marketing, for $1,634,055 in 2018 and $1,654,786 in 2019. Are there any questions? There are no questions. All those in favor of DAT 10, tourism marketing, for $1,634,055 in 2018 and $1,654,786 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. DAT 11, support for local tourism providers, for $1,957,215 in 2018 and $1,768,388 in 2019. Are there any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Member for Bodden Town West.
Thank you, sir. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate the government for putting more money towards this initiative. It's going from roughly 1.7 million to just under 2 million. One of the things I'm curious about, just looking at the quantitative metrics, is in terms of the cruise conversion, in terms of are we tracking that to directly see how many cruise passengers that we have coming back as returning, and if so, what are the numbers like?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mr. Chairman, the cruise conversion program actually operates at the cruise port with our customer service agents who collect contact information and sign up cruise passengers for promotional offers while they're in destination. And then we then opt them into a database and reconnect with them to be able to target them for stay over visitation. So that's specifically defining what the cruise conversion program is, and it's called Cayman Calling. So we've collected a number of names over the years. However, our business intelligence data does indicate that stayover visitors first have visited the Cayman Islands through a cruise. It is a high conversion point for us. In looking at our data as well, there is an affinity for on a cycle. So you've got persons who will do stay over and then do cruise vacations on a repetitive cycle. When we look at the satisfaction rate, the satisfaction experience of the cruise experience solidifies if they become a stayover visitor. So we've been able to identify how much of our market share is attributed to the cruise industry. I'd have to look at my information here to get the specific statistic for you, but there is a statistic that clearly asks, how did you learn about the Cayman Islands? And cruise is a very high conversion point for stay over.
Thank you very
I
much.
will. There's a lot of information on this page. I will, yeah.
Member for Newlands.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How is this business intelligence information gathered? Is it all manual surveys, or how is it done?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mr. Chairman, we have 2 enumerators that are a part of our research team. They conduct surveys through an instrument, a paper survey, traditionally, and then we've converted to tablet form. So there's a number of questions on the survey, what did they do? How much did their holiday cost them? How many persons were on the visit? How much did they spend on each element of their visit? And we conduct those surveys at the airport and as well as the cruise port. Our website, caymanislands.ky/statistics, also reports this information. There is a dashboard that allows you to look back at all of our recorded history of this collected data. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to just finish up with the question that was asked by the member from Bodden Town West. I think the correlation that you're going to find, which you probably already know, is that when you're doing a conversion of cruise passengers, the cruise passenger that can afford to enjoy the destination as a stayover visitor is the cruise ship that you will attract more passengers to come back and visit. So the point of that is, if we look at how our mix of cruise arrivals are, and we have a higher percentage of more affluent, higher income people visiting here, then we'll have the ability to attract more of them. Obviously, if they're on a $250 week special, they're not going to be able to afford to come back to Cayman. So as we continue to increase the average income of cruise visitors, we will continue to increase the percentage that will become stayover visitors.
Member Freestad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm glad to hear that our visitors, especially those at the port, having a good experience about Cayman, because first impressions are very lasting. So maybe I am wrong that all those placards and all that solicitation that I've been trying to have moved from the street adjacent to the dock, maybe I was wrong. Maybe they do enjoy being harassed out there on the docks, because I do know that was part of the consideration of those passenger liners moving out of Jamaica because of so much harassment. I wonder what the government is doing about that and trying. And this is an old question. This has been around for 20 years. But it's getting worse and worse, and the behaviors out there is getting worse.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the comment was dripping with sarcasm as the member delivered it. But I understand what the question was you were trying to ask. I believe this week specifically, if you look at what's taken place, as I drove in this morning, I think I saw 5 or 6 Royal Cayman Island police there marshaling, helping, directing traffic, and very few placards were being displayed. So the combination, and I can certainly say that you have mentioned this to me personally before, and we have had the conversation internally of how we can deal with it because of all the different agencies that are involved. It has improved. There are some initiatives that are happening inside the port as far as a stand and tour operators, taxi drivers, and the initiative from the Royal Cayman Island Police that started to roll out this week is an improvement. It is an issue, as you identified, other islands in the Caribbean have the issue. We are aware of that, and we're doing initiatives to try to work through it, because the other part of it is that you want to make sure that business comes off the port and comes in to local Caymanians who benefit from it.
Mr. Chairman, I thank the minister. He said I was sarcastic in it, dripping with it. He said, like honey out of the sides of my mouth. But what he missed was the national concern I have about that.
There are no further questions. All those in favor of DAT 11, support for local tourism providers, in the amount of $1,957,215 in 2018 and $1,768,388 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. DAT 12, collection of coercive revenue, $141,561 in 2018 and $139,448 in 2019. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman, before you take the question, I'd just like to complete the question. The director now has the information from the intelligence of stayover visitation being driven by cruise.
Go ahead, sir.
60% of cruise respondents reported that they would return to the destination by air. And we'll provide this for you in writing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Premier.
Go ahead, member from...
Yeah, this 141,000, is this primarily staff costs? So, Rosa, there's a question that's going to come back that is going to be there for you. Sorry. Yeah, the 141,000, is that mostly staff costs, or what does that number largely represent?
Just ask for a minute, Mr. Chairman, so I can get the answer for him.
Oh, well, no, sorry. Well, yeah. Actually, I thought it was the DOT thing, so that's fine.
Are you withdrawing the question?
Yeah,
then?
withdrawing the question. Yeah, I thought it was that
You still thought we were
was-
related
yeah.
to DOT, in particular to tourism?
Yeah, no, yeah, I thought it was, but I realized it's not.
Okay, thank you, sir. Are
Okay.
there any other questions? If not, I put the question. All those in favor of DAT 12, collection of coercive revenue in the amount of $141,561 in 2018 and $139,448 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. DAT 13, meteorological services for $1,308,027 in 2018 and $1,335,958 in 2019. Are there any questions? Member for East End.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I just want to say how grateful I am to the service for the daily weather updates. I asked for that 6-8 years ago. And within minutes of them leaving here, we started receiving it. And every day they send 2, 3, or for that matter, when there's threatening weather, they're constantly on it as well, which I don't necessarily like receiving, but anyway, it is a service that I believe is worthy of praise and commendation. I really appreciate that, especially if I go on hunting or go on fishing to get the tides, and I don't have to search for them. And I hope long may it last. I don't listen to the radio often, which the little 109, 107. Mind you, I should remember that because I helped get that in place when I was on the Hurricane Committee. I don't listen to it often, but when I do, I hear it. And I want to congratulate you all on doing a good job of keeping the country informed on these matters, because every news outlet uses your updates, and I really appreciate that.
I'm just asking if he could offer some advice to the 911 and the police. How close he does here so well and they does there so poorly.
Deputy Premier, member from...
Yeah, just
Go ahead,
to
from
thank Jonathan. It's good to see a young Caymanian in charge of something. I know it was earlier this year, last year, that you said that would probably been this year that this last year was one of the driest ever. What about this year? Because I swear for the last 2 months it's rained every day and or night in Lower Valley. How does it compare now to? Certainly must have brought it up. And just another one. The 107.9. I noticed was off the other day. Is it back up now?
John Tibbetts, Director General, Cayman Islands National Weather Service. Welcome, sir. Well, thanks very much for all the support. In terms of the National Weather Service, let me start with the weather radio. The weather radio was struck by lightning on the 27th of September, and we are trying to replace the equipment on it. And the chief officer has assured us that he has the funds in place to go and buy the transmitter as soon as we can source it properly.
Okay.
The rainfall. Okay, my apologies on that. Last year was the driest year that we have on our records, and that goes back to the records from the old U.S. Upper Air Station back in the 1950s. This year, we're actually running about 2 or 3 inches above average. Last year, we only had 28 inches or something like that. And this year we're up about 46 inches so far for the year. So it has been quite a bit, quite wetter. When you sit down and think about how active the hurricane season is, that's talking about weather systems that's generating rainfall coming across. So shouldn't be no surprise.
Deputy Premier, I do have one question, if I could, and to the officer. The Doppler radar that up in East End and on your sites as well, there is a delay, I believe, between in terms of the presentation. Is there a specific reason for that?
Thank you very much for the question. Through to you. The weather radar takes a number of different scans as it's looking for rainfall. And on the very basic level, it just scans at one level all the way around. And that would be what you'd be looking for. However, we require the weather radar to do what we call volume scans. So it scans at all levels going up to get the picture that you see on the website. So for it to do all of that, there's usually a delay of about 5 minutes.
Okay.
So we talk about the most recent image as opposed to the current image, or that's the best way to put it.
All right, thank you. Member from Little Cayman West, Cayman Brac West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just like to ask the Director through the Honourable Minister whether the Doppler radar is up and running now, and if you could indicate what caused it to be down during a crucial hurricane season.
Thank you for the question. Every once in a while, there are sometimes when our technicians go out to look at the radar and examine how it's performing, they might detect potential problems with it. And so they will deliberately shut down the radar until we can carry out a proper investigation and replace whatever part that we suspect is going bad.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I wonder if you could indicate to the committee how often that happened since May.
The exact number I don't have on my hand at this time, but I can get it for you.
Are you in a position to say whether it was more than once?
If my memory serves me right, it might have been about 3 times.
I put the question. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I wonder if the director can tell us if he was involved was he consulted regarding the placing of the mental health facility on that same site? That's a Doppler. And if consideration was given about the nearness to it and the penetration therein.
Thank you for the question. Initially, not really. However, our documentation had been in with the ministry, and it talks about the safety of being close to the Doppler radar for farmers or mental health facility.
Whilst I understand that is a large piece of property, because I have had for years now the specs on that radar, and I understand the penetrations at the different distances. And when I hear the government speak of this mental health facility, I trust that they get it underneath that, they get it beneath that penetration, that beam. I trust that they do, because it's not anyway, it's not a good thing to have it within that penetration.
Statement. You're good? I put the question. Those in favor, all those in favor of DAT 13, Meteorological Services, for $1,308,027 in 2018 and $1,335,958 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it. Members, I'm going to say let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll finish up with this. Take 5 minutes, please.